Welcome back to the Word Conscious Classroom, where we are consciously and deliberately building our students' vocabulary knowledge and word consciousness. Today's lesson is looking at key points. And this is a strategy that I use with my students. And let me just share with you the different aspects of it. We have key points for informational text, and then we have key points for fiction. So as an introduction, I'd like to share this animation that I made. School is back in session, and you're ready for your first class. After reviewing the syllabus, your teacher assigns you an article to read. You panic. You're not sure if you're going to comprehend what you're reading from the article. But never fear, key points are here. Key points are what the author uses to address his or her main topics in order to answer a question or to address a problem. You can use key points to help you identify important information while reading nonfiction text. You can also use key points to help you identify important information while reading fictional texts. You can also customize your highlighting by choosing which colors will identify and represent specific information that you're finding. So remember, the next time your teacher assigns you an article to read or a piece of fictional text to read, don't get upset. Just use your key points. And that's just a little animation that I use with my students. And I also like to do this.
And now it's time for Key Points!
So they know now we're going to use our strategies for close reading. Key points is essentially a method for highlighting while you are close reading. And so as we're reading things, if it's fiction, we're going to highlight and look for certain things. If it's nonfiction, we're going to highlight and look for certain things. Now, I know that research shows that there really is no connection between highlighting and learning. However, there is a connection between highlighting and attention getting. And so the first phase of learning is capturing attention. So I would tell my students that they can customize and choose whatever colors they would like to help get their attention for a specific thing. So if they are looking for key information, maybe we will make that yellow. If they are looking for questionable information, maybe we'll make that pink. And if they're looking for surprising information, maybe they will make that blue. So it's up to the student how he or she would like to customize. So let's take a closer look at key points. And I'm just going to make this fit the width. Okay. And so as the students are doing, let's say, reading fiction, or in this case, nonfiction. This is a nonfiction. But let's start with the fiction. So let's zoom into the fiction here. I might ask my students to highlight the following. I might say, I would like for you to highlight important phrases or important dialogue. And then I can tell them to customize that. So if you are looking for key points, maybe you're going to choose yellow. If you are doing questionable information, maybe you're going to do that in orange. Or surprising information could be pink. Now, the main thing is the key points should typically be the same color because it is a key point. However, some students may want to vary the color, and I say that's perfectly fine. So, if we're reading fiction, the first thing I say is students, please highlight the characters. Who did we meet? So, we're only highlighting the names of the characters. If they're people, we're highlighting their names. If they're animals, we're highlighting the animals. If they're personified characters, we're highlighting that. But the character is very important. And so I would say, okay, let's definitely highlight the characters. And the setting is also important as well because we want to know where and when is this happening? What am I supposed to picture? A lot of students don't realize that when you're reading, you're supposed to set up a conceptual model of what it is that you're reading. And so to help you set this up, you would picture characters, you would picture the setting, and create this model, if you will. Now, when we're starting to get into analytical reading, here is where we would look at important words, important phrases, important dialogue. Because now we are analyzing the text for significant elements. And that is what helps us to study author's craft. And so having the students to look for significant words, phrases, and dialogue will help facilitate comprehension and analysis of text. And as we move further down, we would have the students look for curious behaviors or symbolism. And so when we're annotating the text, I would tell the students, okay, if you read something that's really curious, why is the character doing that or behaving that way? Let's put a star there. Or I might tell them, let's put a check mark next to that because that's some type of symbolism that's representing something. So we'll put a check mark by that. We also look for key events and key actions. So maybe this particular event caused a subsequent event, or the ending happened like that because of this key event. So now we're teaching students how to do connections across the text, looking at these different events and how are they related and how are they affecting subsequent events, and thus the ending or the character's curious behavior, because maybe the curious behavior is as a result of a key event. And then we have key actions. So now we have this happening. What was an action that happened? And it could have been done by the character, or maybe done by a supporting character, or done by something in the setting. So these key actions are also a part of that analysis. And so we see that having kids to really think about these pieces really helps them. And they know what to look for as they're doing a text analysis, what to highlight. Now for information is similar. And so here, if we look at information, let me zoom it in. The main thing that I tell students to look for is information is telling us something. It's teaching us something. And so one thing that we want to pay attention to is names. Names are key. It could be names of people. It could be names of events, names of companies, names of wars, names of just different things, just names for anything, names of animals or parks or anything. So just names. And if the author gives you a name, that is important. Let's highlight that. We also look for locations, just like we look for in fiction. Information also has location. It may tell you that this is taking place in Iceland, or it may tell you that this is taking place in the Shakespeare's theater. So locations are important. It may even give you a specific place. So it might tell you the Native Americans lived in this part of the plains. So we have plains as a general location, but a specific place in the plains would be important for us. We also look for numbers. Informational text tends to have data. So I tell the students, let's look for numbers. Those numbers could include dates and could include time, but specifically, it might have data. So we kind of clump these together. And like in reading fiction, we want the students to do analysis. So let's pull out important words. Let's pull out important phrases. Sometimes we can tell important words by how the author may provide us with that word. For example, the author may give us a word and then put a comma and tell us what that word means. So that would indicate that that is important. Important phrases could be quotes that was said by some historical figure. It could be a phrase that's linked to a mathematical problem or scientific theory. So when we're doing analysis and we're looking for these important words and important phrases, that's going to help us set up a firmer conceptual model, because it is easier for us to set up conceptual models for fiction than it is for nonfiction. So we want the students to pay attention to these important words and important phrases so that they can set up their conceptual models. Now, in informational text, the author may provide a list of things. And so we would tell the students, okay, let's put a check over those things, because the author might say, people used animals from the horse family as a part of their transportation. Those include mules, donkeys, horses. So we would say, oh, so in the horse family, we have horses, mules, and donkeys. Okay, I get that. And so that would be a list of things. And authors tend to do that in information, like give you a compilation of all these elements that make up this conceptual framework. And so we have them to decipher that out. And the author may also give you a list of steps. So the author might say, in order to have this phenomena or have this outcome, you will need to do step 1, step 2, and step 3. So drawing the students' attention to steps is also important as they're doing a close reading of text. And in information, we use a star to represent something that is super important. So as we're reading this information, you might say, oh, that is really important. Let's put a star there. And it could be a whole entire paragraph. Like that whole paragraph was a crux to the information that the author is trying to convey. And so we definitely will tell students, let's put a star there. So this is pretty much letting you see how I use key points with my students, and I find it to be very effective. We do it with pencil and paper first, and then we transfer it over to the digital media. So when you're highlighting on a when you're highlighting, excuse me, let me stop this. So when you're highlighting on a iPad or whatever device you're using, you can use the same strategies. So that ends our talk for today. I hope that you are enjoying these lessons.